Hello, warriors. Welcome to the You Movement. I am B. And a few announcements before I begin. I would like to invite you again to register for the Spiritual Warrior Support Group Google Meet meetings. Those are being held Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's an open discussion group. And Friday is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that one is a book club / open discussion. We are still working our way through the Tao Te Ching or the Tao Te Ching, depending on your pronunciation. And then we go in to discuss how that teaching relates to what's going on in our own personal lives. So I'm sending out that invitation again. If you would like to register, please get in touch with me. I will need your email to get on to the invite on Google Calendar, and you can get in touch with me through my website, which is theyoumovement.com. And there's information over there as well if you want some more information about the groups or about my services. Theyoumovement.com is where to go and check things out. You can even buy some merch. So that is my announcement for now. And today I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the mid place that I am currently finding myself in. I don't know how you've been coping with this Mercury retrograde, but I've been tested a good bit in communication. And the energies as of late have been intense. Well, this whole awakening journey has been very, very intense. There has been so many shifts and transformations at such a rapid rate. It's very difficult to integrate and to ground as you go through so many changes. You know, everything about me has changed. One of the things that I've been doing along my entire awakening journey is making over 1,000 videos and pushing and going as hard as I can to heal, to spiritual, to learn, to get tools, so I've been go for 7 years is a long time to be in that energy. And as much as I keep saying it's time to rest, I'm not very good at it. I'm going to be honest with you. My mind finds comfort in being busy because I feel a greater sense of productivity and therefore value. My sense of value, because I was constantly told that I didn't have any value and I was useless and unlovable. I found that the more I kept myself busy, it was a state of proving that I was valuable. Look how clean my house is. Look at how much writing I've done. Look at how many people I've helped. And these were all ways that I needed to value my right to even exist. So in this last stretch, and I don't know the exact date of it, I'm kind of midpoint here. I set myself up for a challenge to chill the fuck out, 100 days of chill the fuck out. And it's been like a thawing process because you can't take a hyper vigilant nervous system that's go and just chill. Like, that's just impossible. So it's required like kind of layers, like digging deeper into layers and more layers and layers so that I could like literally spend a day doing nothing and being okay with that, you know, lying in my hammock, listening to the birds, breathing, and not going, oh, I need to be walking, or I need to be doing my ABLE program, or I need to be doing dishes. Spirit has literally taken everything away from me to get me into stillness, because I had all these notions of what I was going to do when I got here, right? I was going to walk my 5K a day, and I was going to take Taekwondo, and I was going to read all these books that I bought so that I could be more educated and have more knowledge. And I was going to take this course and that course, and I was going to do all these things. You know, this was going to be the most productive time for me in this wilderness era. And it goes to show you that our egos are ridiculous. My ego is ridiculous, and it's done this throughout the entire awakening process, thinking that it's going to have some semblance of control of the timing of this awakening and speed it up because it's been a long time and I want to get on with my life and I want to build a business and I want to do, roll that up in a ball and throw it in the bin, because when I got here, it immediately almost, I think, I went to like one Taekwondo class, and then just thereafter, I did something to my MCL. Or more to the point, Kundalini did something, or Spirit did something, because I didn't actually do anything. But it's been months, and so I haven't been able to walk on it to the extent that I normally would do exercise. So even my energy to be able to do exercise, I just don't have it in me. I just don't have it in me. And more things are like, I just don't have it in me. I just don't, and it feels like regressing. And I think there is a common theme about people that find out they're neurodivergent. They go through a regressing process, because when you start to unmask, and doing is a mask, right? That's something that I noticed as I was lying in the hammock today for a period of time, is in this moment, I don't have to smile. In this moment, I don't have to do anything for anyone. In this moment, I don't have to perform. I don't have to be on. I can just lie here. And I was noticing as I was lying there that my face was just so, like, the muscles in my face were just kind of neutral. And no doubt if somebody saw me, they'd be like, what's with the resting bitch face? But I'm always like, in this performative state of being so that I can exist in the world, so I can, and, interact with people. And in that moment, I was like, I don't have to actually interact with any people. My peopling has gone through a lot of shifts and changes in different ways and different dynamics. And I'm learning an awful lot about myself through this process as the old me disintegrates and the new me starts to form in a more being kind of way, and less doing kind of way. And I've been blessed. I'm not going to say that I haven't. I've been blessed with this opportunity to live in the wilderness alone. At the same time, it's very challenging. It's not something I would have ever thought I would want, or no, I wouldn't have wanted it. I still don't actually want it. It's not like, I suppose maybe there's a teeny tiny bit of me that's like, I want to see how resilient I am. I want to see how capable I am to be on my own, to be in isolation. But it's challenging. It's very challenging. Like, I don't have family. I don't have friends in the neighborhood. I don't have community. I do online, which has been, like water in the desert. It's been very necessary for me to have connections in the outer world. But one thing that's been happening lately is a lot of those outer world communities have also been starting to melt away making me spend even more time focused within. So today, it's now like 1 o'clock in the morning. My sleep schedule is always all over the place. I just go with the flow of it and sleep when I'm tired and don't when I'm not. I've let go of the constructs that is a sleep schedule or 8 hours a night or anything like that. The part of that I don't like is being awoken, because I now have tinnitus, really bad. I've had it since 2023, and when the energy is really high, it's a very high pitched, like constant, like it never goes away. It's not like the little downloads. I used to get those all the time too. I still get them. It's like you know, in one ear, and you're like, whatever. Now I've got like a constant. I've had that since 2023, when I was going through what I'm going to call withdrawal of the trauma bond. Things were really bad, and that year was my most stressful year ever, and something popped, and I've had constant tinnitus ever since. And so sometimes I'll wake up and it's so loud and I'm like scared. I'm scared. And it takes a while for me to regulate the nervous system again. You know, this process of transformation elicits a lot of fear. And that's teaching us, I know it's teaching me, to purge the fear. You know, this is our purification. The other day, I pulled some cards for myself, and 2 cards came up of purification. And I know that this is what it is. You know, the dark night of the soul, which isn't a night, it's many rounds at this stage of going through massive shifts, and as chunks of your identity completely falls away. And somebody asked me yesterday, what does ego death even mean? Like, I don't understand. And I said, well, when you've been living your whole life in a certain belief or a certain thought pattern, a certain behavior, a certain idea about who you are, and then all of a sudden that no longer resonates as your truth or your reality, or you quit a behavior. It's easiest, I think, for people to like comprehend when it comes to something like drinking. You know, when you are a drinker and then all of a sudden you are not a drinker, you can't live like you used to live. You can't still go to the bars and hang out with all the other drinkers when you're not a drinker, because trust me, it's non-resonance. It doesn't work. So when I quit drinking, I lost a lot of friends that were drinkers, because it didn't work. It's nobody's fault. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm simply saying you don't resonate, because it's like changing the station on a radio station, and you can't listen to 2 radio stations at the same time. So you're changing your vibrational frequency. But the same can be said with anything else. And Spirit has said to me along this path so many times, it's time to like shift this or change that or let go or give it up or quit, you know? And even things as simple as like how you dress or how you look. And sometimes it's really easy. I used to dye my hair since the time I was like 18 until the time I was 3 years ago. 50 was the last time I think I dyed my hair. And I was dyeing my hair, bleaching my hair, and Spirit said very loudly to me, if you keep doing this, you're going to lose your hair. Your hair's going to fall out. You have to stop doing this. And so that was the last time I did it. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm growing my hair out, and I guess I'm gonna like show my God highlights here to the world. I like my God highlights, actually. They're placed quite well. But that was like a relatively easy thing to let go of, even though that was my persona for a very long time. Like I had blue hair and I had pink hair and I had like every haircut under the sun. And like, I'm like, oh, that's not me anymore. Okay, so I'm giving that up. It can also be ways that you think about yourself, of what you're capable of or what you're not capable of. Like driving, that's a major shift in identity, going from somebody who is dependent upon other people to drive me around because I had a fear of driving, and then shifting it to getting my driver's license, buying a car, and now I'm independent and drive myself around. That's a complete ego collapse because my ego was invested in being afraid of driving and being dependent upon others. So it can be behaviors, it can be your appearance, it can be the foods that you eat or you don't eat. It really can be anything. And what happens is you get the nudge from spirit, and sometimes it's very clear and like over your head, you get slammed with something and you know, I don't need to tell you what it is that your soul wants you to do, and you can either delay it and then suffer more consequences because you've delayed it, or you can get with the program and give it up and shift and change and go through the death of that. And sometimes it's easy, and sometimes it's really not easy at all. And it causes a lot of grief and fear to release, and go through a lot of purging as we let go of old aspects of self. And busyness, distraction through busyness, I will say, has been a primary egoic identity of mine, especially in the realm of spirituality. Of how much can I spiritual today? How many hours of yoga can I do today that's productive? How much aligned walking can I do? How much meditation can I do? How much can I learn about, Gopi Krishna or whatever? It's like a constant quest for more, which is in a way, like, I kind of equate it now to like hoarding. The concept of hoarding is like people don't feel satisfied with what they have in their situation, so they're constantly hoarding more. They're buying more of this, they're accumulating more. And the same can be said for knowledge, and the same can be said for, being a spiritual warrior. So the identity that was spiritual warrior, as I've talked about in a couple videos, is very hard for me to let go of. It's been a process, it's not like an overnight thing where you go from being one thing to another thing. There's like this merging process that, you fold into the new. And this last few weeks, I've been going through my wardrobe and getting rid of all the clothes that don't resonate with me, and getting like loose, comfortable things that I feel more comfortable in now. And there's a dying of the old that's still occurring as there's a rebirthing of the new, and this in between is uncomfortable, because when you're in the womb, right, you don't do a lot, right? And so that's kind of what this like void space in between the old and the new is gestation. And in there, you're kind of just floating and sleeping and digesting. And that's what recovery is rest and digest. So I've been eating more. I've put on about 10 pounds because I'm not walking as much as I was. And that's okay. I'm kind of like digging my softness. My physical body is is becoming softer again after being hard, and I'm giving my body what it needs. If it wants potatoes, I'm going to give it potatoes. You know, I'm not going to deprive myself in this time period of learning what it is to regulate a nervous system and rest and relax. And even that, you know, yesterday was the day I was supposed to go to Kripalu. I wanted to go to Kripalu and do a retreat and go heavy hardcore into like work. And then I'm like, no, I need to retreat from retreating. I need to retreat from spiritualing. I need to like take a step back and just be for a while and figure out how to exist in this body that still carries so much fear and become softer. I want to be softer. I want to be a softer person in the world, loving and kind and compassionate, and not on guard all the time, not terrified that, you know, there's going to be one disaster after another. I want to be in service. Well, I already am, but I want to continue to be in service for God, and show up for people where I can and how I can. And in that, there's been some tests lately. Mercury retrograde is all about communication. And this time is also about learning to trust and have faith in God. And as I do, you know, it's trusting that what I need will be provided when I need it, you know, because when you stop working as hard and pushing as hard, you have to get into a place of faith in my own capacity to handle difficult situations and difficult conversations. And I've been faced with so many of those this last week, to the point where the hypervigilance was returning, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to move again. Oh my God. Because there's been, so I'll give you a little bit of details. There's been a lot of problems with this place that I love. And they're not huge problems, but they're fixable problems. But there's been problems. And when there's so many problems, you start to question, you know, what's Spirit trying to tell me? Because after my last experience at that crazy trailer park where there was like dying squirrels and flea infestations and bobcat accidents and, you know, being harassed, you're like, oh, I'm supposed to leave, right? That's the message that Spirit, because sometimes Spirit's very clear, stop dyeing your hair's going to lose out. Or they're very unclear and send messages and you're like, I don't know what any of this means. What does 111 mean? Like I don't know what that means. I don't know what the dying squirrel means. And it meant this place is not good for you. But I figured that out too late. But the messages here, as of late, have been plumbing problems. And I'm like, I don't know what the plumbing problems mean. From when I moved in, there were frozen pipes, which is normal for Canada in the wintertime in a place that's been shut down, you know. So, okay, frozen pipes, we thawed that. And then there was a faucet problem, and the faucet needed to be replaced. And okay, it was replaced. And then the whole system had air in it, and it needed to be purged 3 times. And so we did that. He's now taught me how to do it, so I know how to purge and flush the system. And then there was a clog in the hot water tank, and so it needed to be purged through with vinegar water to clear out the calcium. And now I don't have hot water, and I haven't had hot water for over 10 days. And now there's a propane leak, and so I can't open my window, and the propane tank needs to be replaced. And I'm like, what's going on here, trying to stay sane and rational. These are more fuckeries coming in. What is the message? Is the message, I'm hearing the Clash song, should I stay or should I go now? I'm like, is this all like leading me up to like going? And then I had like a miscommunication with, my neighbor. And I was like, oh no, what's happening? This isn't good. Okay, let's not panic. What have we learned this last year? We've learned I'm resilient. We've learned that when spirit wants me to move, I have to move. And if that's what's happening, if that's what these messages are, then I'm prepared to do this. So I've been like days in prayer, asking for guidance and clarity, and for me to let go, if that's what's being asked for me, is to let go. And so I was almost convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt. And then I've started, communications with this woman to set up healing circles here at the local resort. And I was like, I don't know where this is going. And we had to sit down and have some really difficult business meetings and business discussions. And the old me, old identity me would have let her lead and figured out where I fit in what her vision was. And I very calmly, after days of prayer and meditation, was like, well, this is actually what's going to work for me. And I was very proud of myself because to be able to communicate clearly, calmly, not from panic, not from childhood wounds, and sit in truth and communicate truth in a clear way, and to have it not blow up in my face was huge, because I was terrified. Because what it came down to is, listen, I don't want a partnership. I want to be an independent contractor, and I'll come in and I'll do my thing. But I already have a business. I don't want to run a second business. Like that's not what I want to take on. So I think I want you to I'm here to inspire you and work with you and collaborate with you in a structure to help you set up your business as an independent consultant. And then when that's up and running, I will have freedom to travel when I can, when my nervous system says you can, most importantly, because my nervous system's still saying, no, not doing that. So that was a state of expansion, having this conversation. And then having this conversation with my neighbor, there was a slight miscommunication about, whippersnippering around. And I explained, I didn't know you wanted me to do that. Because when you said, if you want to, as an autistic woman, I thought you meant if you want to. I didn't know you meant this is something that's really important to me. Can you please do it? If you had wanted me to really do it. And so I said, she goes, well, you're intelligent. I said, yes, I am intelligent, but I'm autistic. And so I have great intelligence and can talk for 15 hours about health and wellness and spirituality. But when it comes to interpersonal communications on difficult subject matters, I'm autistic. And so I'm the type of person, if you want or need me to do something, you need to spell it out, like very clearly what you want. She was like, well, you don't have to do it just as long as you let me do it. And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. Like, I don't care. Was my point, was it doesn't bother me, but if it bothers you, because it's the shared area in between, if it bothers you, have at it, and if you want me to do it, I'll do it too. Just say, yo, do this. And so that was a challenging conversation, which again put me into almost hypervigilance of like, look, all these plumbing problems and propane problems, and now neighbors and work, and am I being asked to leave? Is that what Spirit's asking of me? And honestly, I think sometimes Spirit forces us into sitting in worst case scenario for a period of time, so that you can overcome the fear of it. So I sat for a couple of days this last week in a little bit of panic and paranoia that, oh fuck, I'm gonna have to move. Damn, it's a good thing I didn't fully unpack. Didn't hang up any of my art, because where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do? And then it's like, oh, well, wherever I go, whatever I do, I'm gonna just surrender to God, is what I'm gonna do. If God wants me to stay, or if God wants me to go, I'll do either. But just please, give me the grace to be able to move through this transition of the dying of the old into the new in a way that, like, I am a little bit more stable, a little less fear. And if I'm to stay, help me ground myself into this new reality, because I don't know what it is to stay other than to stay where I shouldn't have stayed. And so then this whole question of go, stay came up, and I started reflecting throughout my life. I didn't have a choice when I was a child to go. I was forced to go to this foster home, and then this foster home, and then this adoption home, and my sovereignty was taken away, and so I was moved against my will as a child. Obviously, I would have naturally wanted to stay with my birth parents and my peoples, and I've spent my life searching for this place called home. Like, where is this place called home? And because there are these wounds that exist in me of being moved around so much against my will, that when it came time to be in a marriage, I stayed. I chose the opposite. I went into the opposite polarity of, like, I won't be moved. I won't be budged, because I don't like moving. I don't want to move, even though what I'm in is desperately, the signs needed to be big. They needed to be really, really big to get me to move, because I was ignoring them. My ego was resisting them. I don't want to move. I don't want to let go of this. I want this home. I want this house. I want my family. I want all these things that I was deprived of as a child. And as I've gone through this healing, I've had to let go of things I didn't want to. And so again, it felt like a whole bunch of things I don't want to happen is happening in my life. And then last year I moved 3 times. I certainly didn't want that, but Spirit was like, see this wound you've got around moving and being moved and going with the flow of things. You've got a highly resistant nature to flow. And so I was like, I have to learn to become more fluid, more like water, and flow where I'm being taken. And so, the signs got, like, big enough when I was harassed somebody showed up at my door, harassing me while I had a concussion at that home, that micro house. So then I moved into a B&B as a temporary fix. And then I figured out how to, I put an ad out, and I got myself set up with moving arrangements, and I moved again. And so then I'm here, and I'm like, well, if I have to move again, I'm going to move again. And just when I relaxed into that acceptance, there was a shift in energy. And this shift in energy was like, all of a sudden, the business conversation is working out. And she's like, oh, well, this is great. Yeah, I can see this. I really appreciate you. I have so much I can learn from you. I'm so grateful for you. And I'm like, what is happening? What is happening? what is happening? And then after my like conversation with my next door neighbor, and because it's a huge compound, right? It's one big, huge compound that I live on. And there's 4 households around me. It's all one family, 4 households all around me. And we have this communication where I'm honest and I'm vulnerable and I tell the truth. And I say, listen, I am autistic. Communication is not my strong suit. Because people often misinterpret me, and it's highly triggering for me because I'm always going into conversation like, oh my God, like, do they hear me? Do they understand me? Like, are they going to misinterpret me? Are they going to tell me that I'm talking too fast or too slow or too high pitch or too not enough or quiet down? Like, my whole life I've been like, had people telling me I talk wrong. And so that's why I love my YouTube channel, because there ain't nobody here telling me nothing. Which is why I'm able to finally communicate. And, I've had a lot to say because I've been holding it all in. But that's a side note. After that, we came to a place of understanding. And then all of a sudden there was like a shift in energy, and I was like, what's going on? And then my landlord, who I've had to be like in touch with and be like, sorry to bother you again, but I still don't have hot water. And she's like, what? They were supposed to come. Oh my God, I'll follow up on that. Please go have a shower at my house. And I was like, what? Well, that's a very kind offer, but no, I'll stick with the cold showers. And like, there is something funny about plumbing, okay? So I'm just going to tell you, like the whole plumbing thing is hilarious to me because my twin flame is a plumber. I haven't seen him or heard from him, but like, I just think that's really funny. It's a very weird sink. I'm like, what's with the plumbing problems? It's not like lighting problems or like something else problem. It's plumbing problems. So I don't know what God is trying to say to me in regards to the plumbing problems. I really don't. I think it's a joke that is like going over my head. I honestly, sometimes I think that God is laughing in hysterics at me. And oftentimes what happens is, you're being tested and you're sitting in your worst fear ever. And, oh God, I need to move again. And then Spirit goes, psych. Do you remember that in like the 80s? People would be like, hey, shake my hand, psych. I had weird friends, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know if what's happening right now is a psych situation and I'm staying. That would be nice. I actually really like it here. And I can understand why Spirit sent me here in my wilderness era to rest and recover, because this area, this region that I'm in Ontario, is the same region that my family had a cottage just north of here, like the same region when I was a child, and that was my safest place ever. That was my happy place. Because more than one reason. I love nature. I love tadpoles and birds and herons and fish and snakes and mice. And I just love it all. Always have. When I was a little kid, I used to go catch frogs and snakes and turtles, and that was like my happiest memories as a child, is running around barefoot in a bathing suit in nature. Just that was joy and bliss. Another joy and blissful moment. Here's a first. Actually, I don't think I have talked too much about like good things that happened to me in my childhood, because that's not been the focus through Dark Night of the Soul. So I suppose it's a sign of a good thing if I'm starting to remember some of the good things. Because, abuse isn't abuse 24/7. There are moments where people are nice to you. And up at my cottage, people were nice to me because the next cottage was right there and it was all screens. And so if anybody was raging at me, they would have heard. So behavior changed at the cottage, and it became a much safer environment for me. So I absolutely loved that. You know, we had this log cottage. It was old and rustic, and there was bugs, and you know, it was fabulous. And so as I've been grounding and lying here, it's been healing those inner child wounds as I'm listening to the familiar of good in my life, you know, the familiar birds, the sounds. The only sound that's missing is loons. I haven't heard any of those yet. Maybe in the autumn I'll hear some. But even the sounds of motorboats going by, because this lake is a fisherman's dream lake. Although it's crazy weedy, but that's okay. I guess it's good for fish. And there's fishermen everywhere, and I'll hear like little boats go by, and just the sound of the motorboat is like, oh. The sound of the birds is like, oh. And so I'm able to like soften even more and heal and recover. Am I fully healed? No. Am I still waking up in panic and anxiety when my tinnitus is going, or when I have fear about this trip that I really want to do, because like there's my mind that's like, I want to do this, I've paid for it. Will my nervous system let me? Will I be good enough? Will the PTSD symptoms have dissipated enough that I can navigate through it? Fear isn't like something that makes sense. It's sometimes nonsensical, because you know, you would look at it, I've spent my life moving as in like, I'm gonna overcome this fear of moving, but I never actually overcame it. I just busied myself on top of it and numbed myself and used all those other different coping mechanisms. And so in this awakening process, I've been forced to actually heal the moving wound, the being moved around wound, and now maybe potentially the staying. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm here. I'm supposed to be here until January, and then I don't know. I have to like sink into the hands of God. Just sink there into the hands of God and know that I will be provided for. I will be protected. I will be taken care of. And all of that is a lot to integrate when you have gone your entire life thinking that I have to control it, I have to manage it, I have to be on top of it, I have to figure it out, I have to problem solve, I have to be 3 steps in front of people, I have to look a certain way, I have to smile so that I'm presentable, I have to, you know, blend in. So much. It's just so much. One of the strangest things about this awakening process is how 2 things can be true at the same time. And more that lesson holds true. You can be blessed, and at the same time you can be in extreme loneliness or extreme grief or extreme terror. Those 2 things don't negate each other. You can be grateful, and at the same time you can be miserable. You can have love in your heart, and at the same time have pain. You can wish somebody the best in life and at the same time miss them. You can be both staying and going at the same time. It's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, if you know that reference. The cat was in the box, and Schrodinger, the experimenter, was like, well, my cat is either alive or dead. And in this moment, I don't know what the answer is, so the answer is both. So you can be both. You can be both dying and being reborn at the same time. And that's kind of where I'm at. That's my update of energy is, I'm not fully there yet, but I'm a lot further than where I was. Massive changes are happening right now in my life, and also nothing is happening. A lot of nothing. And nothing is scary, but it is necessary to integrate a whole new way of being where things work out. What even is that? What even is that? I don't even know what that is. Another little tidbit is I am writing, which is amazing. I don't mean writing little Facebook things. I'm like, I am writing. And I'm very happy with what I'm writing. And it's coming slow and methodical. I'm not rushing it. I'm not panicking. But that was my goal, to come here, is to get into such a place of peace that I could start writing. And I'm not writing 8 hours a day. I'm writing a chapter at a time. And then when the chapter ends, I get up and I go back to doing nothing. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe I'll figure out a way to come be successful in life after all. Maybe. With that said, peace. Peace in. Maybe.